I learned about faith in God, family, and hard work. Those were the only lessons of my childhood. There isn't a single adult today that in good conscience would make the argument that America is a more racist or a more white nationalist society than it was when my grandfather was growing up. And yet we're hearing these terms sent around today because what they want to say is that brown people need to be scared.
Now, today we're talking about Candace Owens. She attended a U.S. House hearing in regards to white supremacy and how it's negatively affecting minority communities, especially the urban ones. Now, Candace Owens kind of went off script a little bit, talking about some other issues that she thinks are more prevalent today. And so a lot of people on the House floor did not like that. So let's take a look at her opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Mr. Collins, thank you for having me here today. I received word on my way in that many of the journalists were confused as to why I was invited, and none of them knew that I myself was the victim of a hate crime when I was in high school. That's something that very few people know about me because the media and the journalists and the left are not interested in telling the truth about me because I don't fit the stereotype of what they like to see in black people. I'm a Democrat, I support the President of the United States, and I advocate for things that are actually affecting the black community. I'm honored to be here today in front of you all because the person sitting behind me is my 75-year-old grandfather. I've always considered myself to be my grandfather's child, and I mean to say that my sense of humor, my passion, and my work ethic all comes from the man that is sitting behind me. My grandfather grew up on a sharecropping farm in the segregated South. He grew up in an America where words like racism and white nationalism held real meaning under the Democrat Party's Jim Crow laws. My grandfather's first job was given to him at the age of 5 years old, and his job was to lay tobacco out to dry in an attic in the South. My grandfather has picked cotton, and he has also had experiences with a Democrat terrorist organization of that time, the Ku Klux Klan. They would regularly visit his home and they would shoot bullets into it. They had an issue with his father, my great-grandfather. During my formative years, I had the privilege of growing up in my grandfather's home. It's going to shock the committee, but not once, not in a single breath of a conversation did my grandfather tell me that I could not do something because of my skin color. Not once did my grandfather hold a gripe against the white man. I was simply never taught to view myself as a victim because of my heritage. I learned about faith in God, family, and hard work. Those were the only lessons of my childhood. There isn't a single adult today that in good conscience would make the argument that America is a more racist or a more white nationalist society than it was when my grandfather was growing up. And yet we're hearing these terms sent around today because what they want to say is that brown people need to be scared, which seems to be the narrative that we hear every 4 years right ahead of a presidential election. Here are some things we never hear. 75% of the black boys in California don't meet state reading standards. In inner cities like Baltimore, within 5 high schools and 1 middle school, not a single student was found to be proficient in math or reading in 2016. The single motherhood rate in the black community, which was at 23% in the 1960s when my grandfather was coming up, is at a staggering 74% today. I am guessing there will be no committee hearings about that. There are more black babies aborted than born alive in cities like New York, and you have Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo lighting up buildings to celebrate late-term abortions. I could go on and on. My point is that white nationalism does not do any of those things that I just brought up. Democrat policies did. Let me be clear. The hearing today is not about white nationalism or hate crimes. It's about fear-mongering, power, and control. It's a preview of the Democrat 2020 election strategy, same as the Democrat 2016 election strategy. They blame Facebook, they blame Google, they blame Twitter. Really, they blame the birth of social media, which has disrupted their monopoly on minds. They called this hearing because they believe that if it wasn't for social media, voices like mine would never exist, that my movement Blexit, which is inspiring black Americans to leave the Democrat Party, would have never come about, and they certainly believe that Donald Trump would not be in office today. Looking on the next thing to focus on now that the Russian collusion hoax has fallen apart.
God.
What they won't tell you about the statistics and the rise of white nationalism is that they've simply changed the data set points by widening the definition of hate crimes and upping the number of reporting agencies that are able to report on them. What I mean to say is that they are manipulating statistics. The goal here is to scare blacks, Hispanics, gays, and Muslims into helping them censor dissenting opinions, ultimately into helping them regain control of our country's narrative, which they feel that they lost. They feel that President Donald Trump should not have beat Hillary. If they actually were concerned about white nationalism, they would be holding hearings on Antifa, a far-left, violent, white gang who determined one day in Philadelphia in August that I, a black woman, was not fit to sit in a restaurant. They chased me out. They yelled race traitor to a group of black and Hispanic police officers who formed a line to protect me from their ongoing assaults. They threw water at me. They threw eggs at me. And the leftist media remained silent on it. If they were serious about the rise of hate crimes, they may perhaps be examining themselves and the hate that they have drummed up in this country. Bottom line is that white supremacy, racism, white nationalism, words that once held real meaning, have now become nothing more than election strategies. Every 4 years, the black community is offered handouts and fear. Handouts and fear. Reparations and white nationalism. This is the Democrat preview. Of course, society is not perfectible. We've heard testimony of that today. There are pockets of evil that exist, and those things are horrible, and they should be condemned. But I believe the legacy and the ancestry of black Americans is being insulted every single day. I will not pretend to be a victim in this country, and I know that that makes many people on the left uncomfortable. I want to talk about real issues in black America. I want to talk about real issues in this country and real concerns. The biggest scandal, this is my last sentence, in American politics is that Democrats have been conning minorities into the belief that we are perpetual victims, all but ensuring our failure. Racial division and class warfare are central to the Democrat Party platform. They need blacks to hate whites, the rich to hate the poor.
Oh, what more can you say, man? Fiery woman, and I love it. Oh, she's so passionate about this stuff, and everything she said is true. Every one of those statistics she spouted out about California and the education system and how boys in California can't even pass an equivalent math or reading exam, it's all true. And that's because of Democrats that run the education system, by the way, are lowering the standards so low that they don't have to read at an equivalent level of their grade. They don't have to. They just graduate.
Hey, no. It's discriminatory to not let them graduate because they can't do this. It's the white man that doesn't allow them to do it, okay? It's not because they don't want to do it. It's not because they're lazy assholes. It's not because they don't have any fathers in the home to go out and teach them what true values are and how accepting some notion of responsibility will benefit them in the long run. No, it's not that at all. It's because they're oppressed, people. Because they're oppressed. You got it?
No, it's not because they're oppressed. It's because they're lazy assholes and they've been fed the lie that they're perpetual victims in society by the Democrat Party and the education system and the entertainment system. And what else do you want to throw at them? The political systems. All three of those are the main perpetuators of this false notion that minority groups are being oppressed by some type of shadowy figure of white supremacy. If anything, whites are the biggest advocates for these types of activists, BLM, Antifa. They're mostly made up of white people. So what the hell are you talking about, man? Well, within this hearing, Ted Lieu, I forget which state he represents, where he played a specific clip from, I guess, an interview she did that paints her in a bad light. But the things that Democrats do very often is they'll take a tiny little snippet of any particular, interview and paint that as the person that they're discussing is a deplorable person. And then afterwards, Candace Owens just rips that whole notion apart. And it was glorious. Let's take a look at it.
In congressional hearings, the minority party gets to select its own witnesses. And of all the people that Republicans could have selected, they picked Candace Owens. I don't know Miss Owens. I'm not going to characterize her. I'm going to let her own words do the talking. So I'm going to play for you the first 30 seconds of a statement she made about Adolf Hitler.
I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. He was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he
he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German.
All right, so my first question is to Ms. Hirschenoff. Ms. Owens said, quote, "If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany." So when people try to legitimize Adolf Hitler, does that feed into white nationalist ideology?
It does, Mr. Liu. I know that Ms. Owens distanced herself from those comments later, but we expressed great concern over the original comments.
I'd like to focus
There's your proof,
on actual
people. There's your
policy
proof.
responses that our government can. As you know, there is a nonprofit security grant program at the Department of Homeland Security. Do you believe it'd be worthwhile to increase funding to that program?
The ADL has, for establishment reasons, First Amendment reasons, been very cautious and wary of government funding.
She's part of the ADL? Oh, God. ADL is supposed to be like some civil rights organization, but they are batshit crazy when it comes to white nationalism. Batshit crazy. Go ahead and look up their definition of racism. It's insane.
And this was one that I asked Ms. Clark about, and it has to do with the Trump administration wanting to cut a very specific office called the Community Relations Service Office in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Can you first explain to American people what that office does and why it would be a bad idea to cut funding?
The Community Relations Service Office is a very critical part of the Justice Department. They are considered the peacemakers. They are the ones who step into communities that are embroiled in the aftermath of a hate incident.
And has done shit. Her whole explanation didn't actually say what they did. They were deployed to places that exhibited or had an event that exhibited some type of racial motivation behind it. But what did they actually do? You said they were the mitigators. Were they like social workers that went up?
I know you're having bad feelings. Let's talk about those bad feelings and let's make you feel better about whatever happened here.
What? What are they actually doing? I've never even heard of this group. You'd think if they were actually having an actual impact, the media would be blowing them up as this huge thing. But I've never heard of these guys before. Have you? Maybe I'm just not in the know. Please tell me if you've heard of them before, because I haven't heard about these guys at all. And I'm thinking that if they're trying to provide funding to these guys and increase it, there must be some really underlying sneaky ass shit that they're trying to implement through this non-profit. We already know about non-profits from 2,000 Mules, don't we?
Thank you. Ms. Owens, I'm sorry. We just started recording. Would you like time to respond to that?
Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that black people are stupid and will not pursue the full clip in its entirety. He purposely presented an extracted clip.
The witness will suspend for a moment. It is not proper to refer disparagingly or to a member of the committee. The witness will not do that again. Witness may continue.
Sure, even though I was called despicable.
Witness may not refer to a member of the committee as stupid.
I didn't refer to him as stupid. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. You didn't listen to what I said. May I continue?
Jerry Nadler's such a piece of shit. Oh my god, man. He heard what he wanted to hear. She didn't call him stupid. She referred to Ted Lieu thinking black people were stupid. And he immediately thought, oh, said stupid, and Ted Lieu's name was like close to it, so it must mean she's calling him stupid. What a piece of shit. This is the same asshole that thinks that Antifa is a myth and doesn't exist. You better believe this guy's an advocate for Antifa, trying to go ahead and hide them from the public eye. Fuck you, Jerry Nadler, you piece of shit.
As I said, he is assuming that black people will not go pursue the full 2-hour clip. And he purposefully he cut off, and you didn't hear the question that was asked of me. He's trying to present as if I was launching a defense of Hitler in Germany, when in fact, the question that was asked of me was pertaining to whether or not I believed that Hitler was...
Look at Ted Lieu's fucking Dr. Evil looking ass over here with his hands like this. Yes, excellent. Becoming defensive and emotional. That's what we Democrats love most. You fucking creepy bitch.
whether or not I believed in nationalism and that nationalism was bad. And what I responded to was that I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people. That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted to give you a cut up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative. That was unbelievably dishonest, and he did not allow me to respond to it, which is worrisome and should tell you a lot about where people are today in terms of trying to drum up narratives.
Candace Owens, man. She's so good, especially when she related to what they just did to her in reference to what they have done to Trump in the past. She gave me a semi. She gave me a semi right now. A mega semi.
I would like to also add that I work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there. I'm deeply offended by the insinuation of revealing that clip without the question that was asked of me.
Ooh, do not mess with Candace Owens, Democrat Party, because you're going to get put down just like this. That's why most mainstream media outlets do not have her on their programs anymore, because she comes with facts and figures. They've learned this time and time again, that when they host her on their program, she makes them look like idiots because she tears apart their whole narrative about white supremacy and about how Republicans, and especially Donald Trump, are like trying to oppress them. Where's the numbers? There's none. Nothing that's substantial. Everything is being manipulated before your eyes. If they give you any type of statistics, it's always skewed. Always. They're like, oh yeah, there has been like, a 15% increase in hate crimes across the country. Oh, but what they don't tell you is that of that 15%, like 90% of those were debunked. They didn't actually happen. Those hate crimes were perpetuated by the very people themselves to sell a false narrative. There was a Democrat, I don't know, she was like trying to run for office or something, and she faked her own kidnapping. And I'm not talking about the chick from Michigan either. This was another Democrat that did this. It just didn't get a lot of public screen time because it was a false narrative that they couldn't push. The most famous one is the whole George Floyd thing. He did not die from racism. The guy, Chauvin, was not racist. There is no evidence that his what he's done was motivated by any racial motivation at all. And there's proof that his actions were not directly responsible for George Floyd's death. George Floyd died from an overdose of fentanyl, which is the #1 killer in the United States as of right now of 18 to 45-year-old Americans as of this moment. But Candace Owens, man, fiery till... I hope she's like this forever, man. She moved on from Turning Point USA, and she's now a part of the Daily Wire, which I'm pretty happy for her about. Go ahead and get your bag. And she's married. She has her own little one. I think she's going to be delivering any day now, if not already. And yeah, she's demonstrating what it is to be a true American. And she is a great role model for anyone that wants to go ahead and pick their life up, especially if they come from the same background as she does. I go ahead and strongly encourage anyone to go ahead and try to pick themselves up and make something of themselves. And the first step in doing that is to give yourself purpose. Give your life meaning. Have a goal. Set up smaller goals so you can go ahead and try to achieve those first, and then you can see results. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do something as long as you have the drive to go out and do it. Create a support system for yourself. That's why you have something to fall back on. As long as you have the drive, as long as you have the fortitude and the conviction to get something done, go ahead and go do it. You have the capacity to go ahead and make sure that your ideas become reality. All right, thank you for tuning in today. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and share this out as much as you can. I think it's very important for people to understand what's really happening in the world and not the false narratives and propaganda that the mainstream media is trying to get you to swallow. All right, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys later.
So I wrote this book to tell other kids, because there's lots of kids who don't know what it's like.